Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Forman, and today we have a special guest. We're going to reel off all of his credentials. The G. We got the G-Force, Graham Smith, at Graham Smith Surfboards, and head shaper of Smith Shapes, Graham Smith from South Africa. Graham, how are you today?
Well, thank you. Pleased to be here.
It started off a great day today. We had some nice waves across the street. And what do you think about the community here and the vibes?
I was very surprised, I had a great little day this morning with some little waves, little A-frames. The wind kind of changed a bit and we had a little bit of a slight backing of the wind and really groomed the waves, you know what I mean? And we had a nice glassy conditions, but the area, it's fantastic. I mean, I was super surprised that, when I met everyone around this area, the morals that the kids and the people that I met, they carried forward, and their upbringing was I was just blown away, how cool everyone was in this area.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice people and good vibes, on the beach and in the water. So hey, we're excited to have you here, like right after we got our first delivery of Smith Shapes, and I got to tell you, like right out of the boxes, everybody's been super impressed in the shop and then obviously also out on the water. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the brand, about Smith, and like what you're doing with your son Jordy with the boards and kind of where they're made and kind of what you guys are looking to do.
Yeah, well, basically, Jordy's been riding a lot of different brands from a young age, as well as my shapes. But as he got onto the tour, he was kind of investigating new options for himself. A little bit more high performance, little tweaks here and there, and he would bring them back to myself in South Africa, and we would kind of go through them and just see what globally everyone else is doing. I'm sure the whole world is kind of looking at what everyone else is doing. Widening the nose or pulling the tails and getting better bottoms, a little bit more faster, because speed is a maneuver on its own. So that's what we're really trying to concentrate on. And then we just developed what I was doing, through the G-Force brand. And then he got to a stage where he kind of wanted to do something that involved a father-son relationship. And that's how we introduced the Smith to our little catalog and what have you, to our global distribution. And we're not trying to take over the world, We're just trying to reach areas that people are really into Jordy and into what we're doing,
Right.
And that's basically our story,
And I mean, they're already, you were seeing Jordy on the boards, but already like the brand's kind of just getting out there in a lot of places, and now Matt and Cruz are on the boards as well, and seeing a lot of good results from those two surfers as well.
Well, with Jordy growing up at such a young age, around that same age as little Cruzy, around the 10, 11, that's when I actually took Jordy offshore, basically at 10 years old. Off to Hawaii, off to America, and then spent a whole 3 months in Australia, because that's where they had the cadet series going, and that obviously it was Julian, Jordy, Jeremy Flores, Matt Wilco, the whole crew that basically ended up getting onto tour. These kids emerged together, growing, pushing each other, and we're trying to keep that platform going with all the young kids, and then we obviously have our own little guys that are around the 15 years old, 16 years old. That's another tier that brings you into the 24-litre range,
Right.
And then obviously Jordy's the bigger guy, and we've got Matt McGillivray, who's sitting around the 28 to 29 litres in volume, and then we've got Jordy obviously around the 32 to 33. So we're trying to cover that whole spectrum of the different litres and different models, so that's been pretty rewarding for myself, with Jordy putting all his input into it. And he's back in the bay again, shaping a bit. At 8 years old, he shaped his first surfboard that he won the under-8 SA champs on. So it kind of encouraged him to get back into the shaping bay again.
So tell us about like your board shop in South Africa, like the delivery of boards that we got. I mean, everything just looks really tight. It looks really, really good. I mean, the shapes, the finish work, the glass jobs, like all the color, the resin work, the sprays, like everything looks really good.
Well, basically, if we really think about it, surfboards matter. That's it. That's in a nutshell. So my whole emphasis was to try and we actually increased the glassing facility. We're reaching out to PU and all other different kind of little concepts that we're trying to work on, trying to find a point of difference. I mean, everyone's doing epoxy or they're doing PU, or now we're kind of working out and trying to reach out to glassing PUs with the epoxy, which is pretty cool. But we've definitely showcased ourselves now globally with England, I'd say, predominantly Israel, which is our biggest market, and
Yeah.
they've really pushed us because of the numbers have grown, and that's forced us to actually start increasing production and the area to work in. And I've been doing this since I was 17 years old. I mean, working with Max Wetland and just grooming myself and him shaping longer boards and shorter boards, you know. So I just feel that our point of difference is that we've had a lot of time, you know what I mean, experimenting and gone through the whole circle base that's come around itself. You know, you can see all the new fishes and twin fins and what have you. How it's just, I think it's like a third
It's all
circle.
coming back
It's
again.
all coming back again. And the difference is everyone's getting older, and foam is your friend. That's the most important thing, you know, is to keep thinking about that. Foam is your friend.
What's I mean, earlier you were talking about, and I said, hey, stop! Don't tell me this now, right? You're talking about the glassing and like wanting to get everything tighter, rather than just like a loose glass job on it. Talk to us about
Well,
that.
that's really important, and I think Geordie's brought that to my attention. Is that when we're wrapping them, we need to have a tight wrap, not a loosely wrap. So we don't want it resin rich. So it also makes it a bit heavier if you got resin rich. So we actually pulling them, stretching them out, glassing them, using the squeegee, just not running them on the board and just pulling off resin, you know. I actually try and, everyone is gauged a certain amount of litres to glass a board. So everyone's paying attention to that, because where we do it in South Africa, we try and minimize just wasting the resin, because once you just have too much resin, you end up having a loosely lapped surfboard. So we try to wrap it tightly and keep it as close to the shape as possible. That's what we're trying to do. And obviously it enhances the weight. We don't want it to be resin rich. A blanket is basically like a sponge. It's gonna suck resin. So we are glassing purely with UV.
Okay.
And it sets it off within 30 to 40 seconds. Opposed to if you're using MEK, which is a hardener, it's got a time frame of most probably a period of about 12 to 15 minutes before it kicks.
Right.
So we're shortening that to keep the resin in the cloth and not draining into the blanket itself.
Okay. I mean, talking about rewinding a little bit and talking about the like kind of where you guys are going with Smith. I mean, obviously you got a big eye on the performance sector, you know, with Jordy and Matt. What about like more recreational, like kind of just the guys, you know, or the girls at the beach that are just having a good time and want something easy to ride and like kind of rangy?
Oh no, for sure. That's definitely opened up a lot of doors now. And everyone's moving towards, I wouldn't say the retro look, but it is kind of looking like the retro look, a little bit more sexier, with pulling the rails down, making them more to activate and engage on the face of the wave, which actually enhances the board to be able to do maneuvers when you're up at speed. So we're actually really concentrating on trying to push a bit more leaders further forward up on the board to give him momentum. It's all about having momentum, I think, on the shorter boards. Everyone's going shorter, a little bit wider, a little bit more chunkier, but you still have to really concentrate on having a good bottom, bottom curve, you know what I mean? A little bit of flip in the tail, a little bit of flip in the nose, and getting the water to pass through the bottom as quick as possible. So we're definitely trying to reach out to the older surfer, you know. He's kind of progressed. He's hanging at home, he's got kids now, and he's kind of like a weekend warrior, I'd say. You know, and that's definitely a market that's really opened up globally, I think. I mean, everyone's got that model in their package, you know, whatever's on offer, you know, basically.
Yeah, and there's a lot, I mean, I think there's been a lot of development like in that whole sector, you know, of boards in the last 5 years.
Oh yeah, for
and,
sure.
But there's also a pretty wide spread between good ones and bad ones.
100%. I mean, at my age, I'm still trying to ride and figure out what it's about. But a guy like yourself, who's maybe in his 50s or 55s or whatever, it's about staying fit.
Right.
That's the most important thing. And, you know, getting up, popping up. All the boards, I mean, I'd say all the models go well. Even if it's one other brand, you know, another international brand, they're going to all go well. The guys have worked at it, they've worked on their shaping, they've designed something that's going to work well, they've got their test pilots, you know. And that's what we're really stoked about your show, is that you've got a lot of test pilots that we can actually work through them, and you put them onto a different platform with using different models, and we'll soon try and dissect that down and try and find what's going to be right for the area, and that. So I'm really stoked on that. That's absolutely amazing to have that info from you guys.
So it's really cool hearing like the spread on volumes, you know, like when you go from cruise to matte Jordy, you know, and it's kind of I think it's an eye opener for a lot of people, although it shouldn't be, you know, that he's riding above 30 liters, you know. But you say like 32, and like a lot of people are like, whoa, there's actually an actual human sized board, you know. But there's a lot of people watching this video that want to know what you're riding, you know, like you're like, cause we figured you said you're like 92 kilos or something like that.
I'm around about the 92 kg range, and I'm on like a 6'10", you know what I mean, 21.5 inches wide, 2 7/8 thick. I like them light. I think that, you know, if you possibly can, I'd like to drive that conversation that purely I think that the PU isn't as responsive as what an epoxy is, especially as you get older, you know, and you want to be a little bit float, get the board to get on top of the water, to plane across quicker, because us guys are going to be riding a little bit smaller, I think, opposed to bigger waves, you know, so you need the epoxy that's just a little bit more live, you know what I'm saying, it gets you going. Hence we're doing a lot of the PUs and we putting skins on them with epoxy. It's just kind of, I think it's kind of like a plastic coating rather than acrystic resin. Obviously the impact's not the same, you know, they'll last longer if it's an epoxy opposed to if it's acrystic resin, you know, they don't go brown as quick. But the emphasis is still on epoxy, I think, as we get older, and we need to feel a little bit more alive and be on top of the water rather than pushing the product through the water.
Through the water, yeah. And what's the volume that you're riding at your size?
I'm on about 42 liters.
Okay.
Which invariably would be most probably 44 liters if it was a PU. Yeah. But you can actually bring it down if it's epoxy. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we've always found like in those bigger boards, like keeping them light is important, you know, because they seem to grow in weight like exponentially, you know, as they get longer, wider, thicker, like they get super heavy.
Exactly.
And so keeping them light really livens up those like bigger shapes.
And as well as when you're getting involved with a swell that's predominantly 3 to 5 foot, to trying to push under and get out to the back line, you know what I mean? The epoxy does kind of hold you back a little bit. You need to have a technique of being able to push deep, you know.
Yeah.
You're not going to turtle over on them. So, which is another thing too, is you can reduce the liters a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
It'll make it a lot easier.
And then epoxy makes up for that.
Exactly,
in those
the
bigger
epoxy
boards.
makes up for that, yeah.
So Graham, we got a great selection of Smith shapes in the shop. You know, right now running about 100 with 4 different models: the goldfish mid, the volume, and the humanoid. What if somebody wants to order a custom, like either in any of those 4 models or any of your other models?
Well, basically, I think what we're trying to work around is that having a stock custom, and across the board, we're trying to reduce the ability to have the boards that are too thick or too chunky or too whatever, and trying to across the board have boards that are on the rack, but they kind of a custom stock board, opposed to having it as just a regular stock board, because we kind of now finding what the requirement is, you know, basically all globally actually people are saying, I want, this is selling best, this model's selling best, this is the liters we'd like. But with custom, I think it's really important that we get the right, whoever's going to order a custom, we have the right liters, you know, to showcase the board also for the location that the guy's surfing the board. If it's going to be down in lowers, or it's going to be a little beach break, or a wave that's of consequence, you know what I'm saying? Then we need to make sure that we have that board dialed in for that particular person. Regarding waves of consequence, we want the guy to actually understand what he's going to be riding when he takes it out there. You know what I'm saying? We don't want the board to start to spin out. It's got to bite, it's got to hold, you know, it's got to be activated properly when he buries the rail, you know. So customs play a big part in ordering boards for sure, 100%.
So, like, you know, any of the people that we're working with and that want to place a custom order, they can put it in through our shop, and then it just shows up with our next delivery. Whether it be from South Africa or wherever else you guys are making the boards.
No, 100%. We're very fortunate that we've got a few manufacturers in California manufacturing. We're looking elsewhere as well, you know, in your area, wherever. And we have a really good turnaround coming from South Africa, as you know, to get in there and to bang them out and make sure that we put our best craftsmanship into them and get them over to you guys. But yeah, customs are definitely the way to go. I'd say a particular person wants to spend the money, and then we want them to be rewarded with the right product and the right model and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, not only the level of, you know, quality that was in the order that we just got, but also how fast you guys turned that around was just insane.
Yeah,
like the
well,
number of boards and how quick it was.
Over
I think
time.
it actually took it longer to airship it here than it did for you guys to make it.
I know. Well, that was unfortunate. But in Africa, my staff love overtime.
Yeah,
Staff
yeah,
will
okay.
pay. They're getting into.
That's not the case here.
Yeah, so it's no, it's rewarding for them to know that the product's coming into the States, you know, and they're excited to as well, because it's only going to bring more work to them. That's the most important thing, you know.
Yeah.
It is Africa, and we need the surge coming from America and the help that you guys are giving us,
Right.
getting the product in. It's serving a purpose with our workers, you know.
Right.
I know there's been a lot said about our Africans and what have you, and I'm really trying to encourage them to get their kids to school, and all that means is that they need more work.
Right,
you know,
right, right.
And that means getting
There's
more work from you
opportunities
guys.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, they all have possibly between 4 and 6 kids. You know, so
Yeah.
they want to develop and get the kids into varsity and what have you, and go through the proper walks of life of school. So Geordie plays a big part with the street kids, you know, surfers and not street kids.
Yeah.
So that's another movement we're trying to push towards them, train them up young, let them understand that surfboards count, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And try and encourage them to get a better product out. That's because it's only going to be a better turnaround for them.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to feed them more money, more work, and more products to go through the factory.
Yeah, please let them know. I'm sure you will, but please let them know how stoked we are on the boards, you know, and how clean they turned out.
100%.
It's just incredible. Graham, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here at Reel in Cape Hatteras, and man, we're excited to have you around, you know, for some more sessions. If anybody out there has more questions on the Smith shapes or questions for Graham, you can always call us at the shop, 252-987-6000, or look us up online, realwatersports.com/surfing. Thanks for tuning in.